The Terminator is like the best student film ever made. It's this weird, perfect, thrown-together instant classic where the sets are wobbly, the permits are unsigned, and it's pretty much all hinging on the ability of one person to make it work.
Hello, Jim.
And yes, I get it. Most students aren't going around with 6.4 million in their back pocket, but in the world of film budgeting, that's not a lot of money. For context, right, Avengers Endgame made for about the same price as 40 Terminators. Jesus fucking Christ, those movies are so expensive. Big Jimmy didn't really have a pot to piss in back in the day, but he did have a dream. Terminator 2, It's Time for Judgment, went on to be revered as the definitive exploration of Big Jim's ideas with this franchise, which is a shame if you ask me, because I think we absolutely peaked with extendo boobs and CGI John Connor getting domed in Dark Fate. But there is still an undeniable charm to the very first entry, a tangible eagerness to prove itself, to make a statement not only in terms of its themes and ideas, but also about the capability of the person putting it all together. You see, I think the Terminator serves as proof that creativity flourishes under pressure. Its behind-the-scenes limitations didn't weaken the quality of the film, if anything, they sharpened it. And by leaning full tilt into this simplicity, into the tension, James Cameron created a film that feels immediate and inevitable. It may not have the same ride-or-die fan backing as the second one, if you pardon the pun, because they're on that motorbike, and it was a bad joke, I get it. But there's absolutely no one just viewing this as that hokey first entry in a series that expanded beyond it. It's far more than that. It's a cultural blueprint for how constraints can fuel innovation, and how, more than anything, small films can make a big impact. Nowadays, it's easy to see James Cameron as this big cultural juggernaut of a director who's made some of the most expensive and then subsequently successful films in the world. But back in the early 1980s, Cameron was a nobody. Big Jim might be cash poor, but he is ideas rich. There's more eerily prophetic ideas in this than there are minutes in that horrendously awkward sex scene halfway through the movie.
Ew, what's that?
That's ballsack.
You'd think for a man that's been married about 12 times, he'd probably know what sex looks like. You know what? Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Outside of cinema's most arguably necessary session, except for that film where Jason Statham has to have sex every 5 minutes or he blows up or dies or something. I don't know. I haven't seen Crank. The film's tackling the likes of AI, autonomous weapons, fate versus free will, technological dependence, and humanity's self-destruction. That's insane.
I warned you guys in 1984.
The film's very structure is musing on the repetitious monotony of machinery. The Terminator advances, Sarah and Carl escape to safety. That's it. That's the entire movie. Call it simple if you like, fine, but it's persistent, it's goal-orientated, lean, focused. There is no pause for reflection. The film's tight pacing and endless forward momentum convey the inevitability of AI, and while some movies might opt for the more optimistic, what if it could feel things approach? The Terminator rejects that, portraying artificial intelligence as pure function, optimization without empathy. And by doing this, by grounding your horror concept in a physical, unstoppable body, by personifying it and prioritizing the stylings of a horror film over a science fiction one, Big Jim has made that technology terrifying. Not just because it thinks, but because it does so without the need to feel. Something that's great throughout is this cold, unfeeling approach is also kind of echoed in the presentation of the film. It's so gorgeous to look at, but it's also just relentlessly emphasizing the theme. Steel blues and greys dominate the color palette alongside harsh neon lights and industrial textures like metal and concrete, and not to mention it's practically always nighttime as well, which is obviously very scary. I mean, even once they get off the streets, interiors just feel fluorescent and clinical as opposed to warm. Now look, if you're getting chased by an absolute 7-foot fuck-nosed monster who's literally working through the phone book one by one to murder you, then it makes sense that a police station should kind of be a little safe haven for you, right? No, Cameron makes the incredible choice to just have this environment feel so stale and cold and dull, visually flat. It's an aggressively bland location until, of course, the Terminator comes in, and then you start to see these colors peek through. The orange flames look really nice. There's one point where Kyle Reese walks past the window and you get the tiniest little flicker of that kind of industrial, cold blue light that's been going on in the war scene set in the future. It's that kind of subtle attention to detail that just makes you go, oh my god, he was cooking, you know? When the action moves towards the final factory sequence, the setting literalizes the theme. Humans trapped inside the belly of industry itself. Wait, hang on, sorry, I moved on from the police station scene too quickly, right? What a pivotal examination of machinery versus man, distilled into one absolutely fucking unreal action set piece. The Terminator enters calmly, he speaks coolly, and then suddenly the fucking lunatic obliterates the desk clerk and just gets to work immediately. Look at the way he gets out of this car, like that was a normal thing to do. The chaos of this sequence is juxtaposed so nicely by the calm efficiency of the Terminator. It's not like earlier when we saw him actually do a little silly half-walk, half-jog situation when Kyle Reese actually rocked his shit with a shotgun for the first time. No. This is purely clinical. The film is clearly communicating how our way of doing things, humanity's answer to law and order, just completely crumbles to its knees when confronted by a superior system. Societal structures are just obsolete in the face of the future, and god, doesn't that make you just feel terrible. terrible. Something that I think the Terminator deserves more credit for is how it conveys its fear of technology through mostly practical means. Is it a wink and nod from a filmmaker? Is it technological or financial constraints? Who's to say? And yes, Big Jim is hardly known for his aversion to CGI. Probably the opposite, right? But irrespective of why, it's a very nice touch that just enhances the ideas that the film is trying to get amongst. Does this look like Arnie's face? Not really, no, but it does hold this uncanny sort of feeling that it resembles something human whilst not being able to quite replicate it. The fact is, it's a dated effect, but I think it works in favour of the narrative. At this point, the Terminator's been through it. His rubbery little fleshy disguise should feel tattered and shoddy. He should feel like he's rotting away. It also provides a nice middle ground to help the audience bridge the gap between this and this, seeing these two as the same character as opposed to two separate entities. Also, the endoskeletons feel tangible because of the imperfections of go motion at the time. Is it enhanced by computers? Sure, yeah, but the prop bolstered by the slight artificiality of practical stop motion effects add a layer of believability and even frailty to the final threat. This might be my spiciest take of all time, but I do think that some of that threat level is lost in the sequel because you lose a layer of this tangibility, I think. Terminator 2 Judge Judy Jessica Day is practically a perfect film, but the gloopy, liquidy effect, whilst a technical marvel, yes, doesn't really scare me the same way that the OG does. Sloshy little police officer Robert Patrick is unstoppable, sure, but he's less physically imposing. And that doesn't just come down to the size of the blokes playing the parts, but it's kind of this feeling that he just feels frailer than the big boy, you know? Admittedly, though, it is pretty fucking cool when he goes through those prison bars and just goes kind of, I don't know, that's a water sound effect. Something else impressive about this film is the amount of big ideas that are compactly just shoved into the leanest, tightest script you could ever read. Again, this film had literally a 0% chance of being made if producers could see dollar signs while reading it, so it's purposely restrained, and I think that's brilliant. You can see just how much the film omits regarding its own premise. Skynet? Unseen. Who sent the Terminator back? Doesn't matter. Big Jimmy's philosophy when writing this film was to cut down everything that wasn't absolutely crucial for the comprehension, and the result kind of leaves the film feeling grander somehow? I don't know. For example, right, take the coolest looking sci-fi war ever. It's on screen for like less than a minute. There's no generals explaining what's happening or whatever, there's just clear-cut, no-nonsense, communicative images like skulls being crushed under big tanks getting the job done. These sequences are also home to some of the warmest moments in the film, I think. I've always loved this bit where Kyle Reese escapes to the underground human settlement and just has this jovial, like, got ya moment with a kid or whatever. Just pure humanity shining through despite clearly insurmountable odds stacked against them. I don't know, it's really sweet. Ironically, by leaving details out, you're allowing the audience's imaginations to run wild. The lore of John Connor feels almost mythic due to its lack of expansion, and the fact that we never see him send Kyle Reese back in time allows us to get lost in the film's central stakes. Will they succeed? I don't know. I know Kyle Reese made it here, but I don't know, what if this is the one that goes wrong? I don't know. This film could have been this sprawling tale of good versus evil and this messiah-esque figure being shepherded into safety so that she can bring life in the form of the savior of Earth or whatever. And nah, instead it's just two insane blokes shooting guns at each other on various vehicles. And that's so cool. It's deceptively simple while not being surface level. It's definitely helped by the way that some of these big ideas that need to be communicated are typically delivered by Kyle Reese just sweating and stressing all over the gaff, sounding like an unhinged lunatic. I will say as well that this movie sounds like God itself. The main theme just mimics this industrial rhythm, lending this sense of urgency to practically every scene. The soundtrack doesn't ever swell heroically or whatever, it kind of just chugs away in the background, coming to the forefront in major moments of action. It does that same thing that Star Wars does when Luke shoots the Death Star down the little hole thing and it goes dun, 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 in this weird sort of out-of-time rhythm. Techniques like that are designed to keep people on the edge of their seats, unable to fall into this sense of musical security, unable to predict the outcome of the climax since they don't even know when it's going to happen. And this scene with the Terminator on the motorbike hits the exact same way. Just two very talented people doing very cool things. Even the silence becomes pretty oppressive as well. When the Terminator's scanning environments, the heads-up display perspective strips away any ambient humanity that we might normally get in any other film. We hear the sounds of whirring and processing, and it's such an easy thing to miss, but the absence of any sort of human background noises just strips away that thing that we as people empathize with. Look, it doesn't have to be your favorite in the franchise like it is mine. That's fine. I am forever resigned to the fact that people always prefer the second one more. That's fine. That's cool. But I do hope that in some sort of way I've been able to articulate how budgetary constraints can fuel innovation in filmmaking. Getting smart with the camera, the script, and the performances and how you present those things can take your project a hell of a long way. And I do think that back in 1984, Big James Cameron was kind of the poster child for relying on craft when he couldn't yet rely on the spectacle that would come later in his career. Anyway, that's your lot. Thank you very much for listening. This is that part of the video where I'm supposed to be a little bit nonchalant and cool. Like, I don't care if you subscribe, but it would be really cool if you did, genuinely.